Alright, hello guys, Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the Bubonico and specifically its alternate fire. Now in this video series I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test it on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors like Warframe abilities, Warframe damage, pets putting statuses on it, pet mods that increase damage, anything like that. I just test the weapon by itself. So this is actually part two of the Bubonico. We did the Bubonico primary fire yesterday, and so we're going to be going over the alt fire today, just because they are two very different weapons in one, basically. So the Bubonico is a arm cannon. It's a pretty cool looking weapon. Now, if we get into here, I have a blank config just so I can show you guys the unique things about it. So the alt fire is going to shoot 3 viral explosives, and that is affected by multi-shot, so you can increase it by way more than 3. The explosives are, of course, going to do viral damage, and it is a battery weapon. So, it's an infested weapon, so I don't think it's technically a battery. It probably, lore-wise, maybe uses blood or something. I'm not really sure, but it's a battery weapon. You're not going to have to worry about ammo. Now, the alt fire is very different than the primary fire. So let me scroll up here. These stats right here are for the primary fire shotgun mode. And if you look, crit chance 25. These are status per projectile, so that's not too bad actually. So the shotgun is a very hybrid weapon. But let's go down to the actual alt fire here. So we have burst, damage, and radial attack. Now, the alt fire, look at that, 3% critical chance. So the alt fire is not a critical weapon. It is a status weapon. The Kuva Nucor. So let me go back a bit. I tried to build this out as a hybrid just to see, because the Kuva Nucor is one of those weapons where it has a very low crit chance, but it has an okay crit multiplier, and so it's worth putting critical mods on the Nucor. And I was like, let me test this weapon and see if this is the case. And it just wasn't. It just wasn't, because the Nucor starts at, I believe it's like 7%. So when you put a 200% crit chance mod on it, the 7% becomes 21%, which is pretty good. 3% only becomes 9%, which is still horrible. So it's not really worth building this for hybrid at all. You're going to be building it for full status. Okay, we're going to get into the actual build here. Now, you're going to see a lot of misformas on this build, and actually one of my mods is not even fully ranked. And that is because the mods that you use for primary fire are different and different symbols than the mods you use for alt fire. So it's kind of like a headache having both builds. And that being said, you also have to switch the polarity, like spots that they're in, because again, the game reads it from left to right. And so on primary fire, we had some of these, in different spots. And so, when I made this build, I go look at my primary fire, and it's all kind of, jacked up here. So just keep that in mind. But this is the proper build. The only thing that's going to be a little bit different, that if you were going to build the Bubonico, like specifically for the alt fire, is that you would have a full galvanized acceleration. But that is only going to affect the projectile speed. So unlike the shotgun, so the shotgun actually has fall off damage, so you're going to be increasing the damage that you do at range. That's not the case for the. Hold on, let me get back here so it doesn't look all weird. That's not the case for the alt fire. This is only going to just increase the projectile speed. So me showing this build off with a half ranked galvanized acceleration, and again, it's just because we're at a capacity here, is not going to show the build weaker than it actually is, really. Okay, so getting into the build, we're going to be going for Galvanized Hell for multi-shot, Vigilante Armaments for multi-shot, Prime Point Blank for flat damage, Vicious Spread for flat damage. Now, this says that it increases spread by plus 60%, But one of the other unique things about the alt fire for the Bubonico is that it is close to pinpoint accurate. And so Vicious Spread actually does almost nothing to the Bubonico's spread. So it's just a plus 90% damage mod. Honestly, it's not very strong. So like this would definitely be the slot you put a Riven in, because 90% is not really that big of a deal when you have 165 flat damage and you're going to have 360 flat damage here. So this is 100% your Riven slot right here. Primed Charge Shell and Toxic Barrage to make Corrosive. Blaze and Scattering Inferno to create heat. Well, actually, heat is just created by one of them, but we use two of them to increase our heat weighting a bit higher, just because we want a little bit more heat procs than anything else. And then, of course, the weapon's going to have innate viral. So we're going to have corrosive, heat, and viral. And then we're going to be using Galvanized Acceleration to just increase our projectile speed. And Primary Merciless for just a big dumb 360% flat damage increase. Now, if we scroll down here and we look at our weighting. So, yes, corrosive is higher than heat. And there is a way to kind of balance that out a bit. So instead of Prime Charge Shell, you would use Shell Shock. So if you don't have access to Prime Charge Shell, Shell Shock is perfect right there. But most of the heat procs are great. Heat procs deal good damage, but they're not going to be dealing the majority of the damage on this weapon. The majority of the damage on this weapon is just going to be the big dumb flat damage numbers, unfortunately. So by having Prime Charge Shell with 165 electricity, we're kind of getting a little bit more damage out of this than we would by just hoping that we get a couple more heat procs. So that's why the numbers are a little bit skewed in the favor of corrosive. But if you don't like that, again, just put Shell Shock there, and then it'd be a bit more weighted. Corrosive and heat would be almost the same. I believe Shell Shock there is going to bring in like about 7-ish hundred. So you'd have 700 heat, 600 viral, 700 corrosive. Now, with this build, with the primary fire that I did yesterday, you're pretty much only using primary fire. There's really no reason to be shooting your alternate fire with that build that I did yesterday. Now with the alternate fire build, with this build, this is primarily a trash killer. There is a reason for you to still be shooting your primary. Now your primary in this mode, or with this build specifically, will be weaker than the primary build that I built yesterday. But your trash clearing potential is larger, and you still have a pretty strong primary. It's a weaker primary than we built yesterday specifically for the primary. But this is going to deal with Acolytes and even Thraxes and Eximuses much better than the alternate fire mode. And so for the alternate fire build, there is going to be a reason for shooting both modes. So keep that in mind, and I'll kind of go over that when the gameplay happens. So that is the build. Now we're going to be doing a 10-minute Kuva survival on Steel Path, of course. We are, and then after that we're going to do a 10-minute Lua Conjunction, just because the enemies are a little bit stronger there. We're not going to be mixing this with anything, so because of that, we're going to be using a Big Demonaros with no Archon mods. No mods on him that increase weapon damage. No Arcanes on him that increase weapon damage. No Sentinel weapon with, so we're not producing Sentinel statuses. No Sentinel mods that increase weapon damage. And that's it. Let me stop running my mouth, and we will get into the Kuva survival. So I'm going to cast my 4 to double my armor, and that'll be the last ability I use. Everything else will be the weapon. Now this is going to be pretty much a full white non-crit build.
Modified blood support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or attach the catalysts to begin harvesting.
Try to get in the habit, and I have a hard time with this because I don't use Bubonico super often. Try to get in the habit of letting it fully charge to 27 after you dump, 3 bursts. Just kind of position yourself, get the enemies clustered up a little bit better, and then do a 3-round burst. And also, there is huge potential to self-stagger yourself, because this actually is a quite a large radius that this covers. So the fire procs are nice. You can, let me throw a few on here, and you can see they do okay damage, but you're not getting the majority of your damage from those fire procs. I mean, they're kind of just a little bit extra, and that's why I like to use the primed electric mod instead of the 60-60. Using the 60-60 is going to get you more fire procs on target, but most of your damage is actually caused by the damage of the weapon, not the fire procs. The fire procs are just a little extra benefit. And of course, fire procs help with armor stripping. Once we start getting Eximuses, I'm going to kind of show how this does against them, and then I'm going to show how the primary fire of this build does against them. The primary fire of this build is going to be weaker than yesterday's primary fire build. There we go, there's an Eximus right there. Hopefully it's not a Scorpion Eximus, because then it'll be a little bit too weak. Yeah, it's a regular Eximus. Okay, so I'm just going to shoot a few big bursts into him. Probably should have, where is he? There he is. So it doesn't do horrible damage. I also probably could hit him a little bit better. Doesn't do horrible damage, but you're going to be doing multiple bursts to kill one Eximus. Not terrible, but if I was to switch to my primary mode with this, it'd probably take him down a little bit. Now, when we get to the Acolyte, that's 100% true. This burst mode does pretty poorly against the Acolyte. If you're trying to get a Riven for specifically the burst fire mode of this weapon, multi-shot is going to be king. So it'll be like multi-shot, probably flat damage, and status chance would be your best. There we go. I'm going to throw a few bursts into this guy, and you can kind of see how it does. Pretty, mediocre. So he's going to take a little bit from that fire. Look how small that fire is with 32 procs. And that's why, again, the fire is just a little nice, but it's not shouldn't be your main focus is fire procs. Okay, so here's the Acolyte. I'm going to throw a few bursts into him so you can kind of see how it does. So far pretty poorly. I want to get his shields down and put a nice burst into him without shields just to kind of see. So go ahead and look at his health up there. It's pretty low. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up to him, and I'm going to go to primary mode. I'm going to go pop, 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 pop. Behind me. So you can see it's a lot quicker in primary mode to take him down. Of course, if your aim is better than mine, it's going to be a lot quicker. And so that's the reason that in alternate fire, with the alternate fire build, there is still a reason to actually shoot the primary fire, because it's going to do a lot more damage against the Acolytes. Now, out of the two builds, out of the alternate fire and primary fire build that I did yesterday, I kind of like the primary fire better. I mean, it's a little bit weaker at dealing with like large packs than this mode is, but it deals with everything. It kills, you know, trash, it kills Thraxes, it kills Eximuses, it kills Acolytes. Like, this mode is pretty much just a trash killer. It can kill Eximuses, but it doesn't kill them super efficiently. And it's pretty poor at killing Acolytes. But if you were, and like my builds are Steel Path builds, but if you were to be doing non-Steel Path for some reason, like maybe you got this weapon early and you just cleared your star chart or something, the Burst Fire mode is going to feel way stronger than the Primary Fire mode. And it's just because enemies don't really have a lot of health. You know, it's so of course a weapon that kills 10 enemies at once is going to be better than a weapon that kills 1 or 2 enemies at once. So, but once you get to Steel Path, enemies can take more than 1 burst of damage. So it kind of shows. Like this guy here, we haven't used our primary fire. He will die eventually. I mean, he'll get heat procs. There's a good amount of damage going on him. It's just the primary fire we saw yesterday with the Eximus is going down in like a second or 2. These ones, like with constant fire, they'll go down in like maybe 5 or 6 seconds, maybe even longer than that. Again, your aim is probably going to be better than mine. And you won't be self-stagging yourself maybe as much as me. Maybe you'll have Prime Sure-Footed on or something. Alright, where is... I'm going to head over to the life supports here. I'm going to hit like 1 or 2 of them. We're going to bring all the enemies to us. And this is like one of the few cases when I was modding this weapon. It was one of the few cases where I just didn't even know what mods to put on it, like at a certain point, because you basically have all of the mods that you would normally use for damage on there, and then you're like, well, this is a horrible crit weapon. Like, so what the hell else do I put on this thing? You know, and then you're kind of stuck using like really mediocre mods like Vicious Spread. And that's why like that one is 100% Horrific Slot, because that's only 90% flat damage. Like most of the time you're like, oh, I wish I had an extra mod slot, because there's so many good mods that I can put on this. This one not so much. I mean, just because it's full, it's a full status weapon with really shitty crit. There's only so many status and flat damage mods in the game. You get to a point where you're just like, well, I got them all on there. What else do I put on? And like, there's not a primed fulmination that you could put on. I'll double check that actually. Ooh, I might be talking out of my butt there, but I'll double check that there's not a primed fulmination to put on this weapon. I don't think there is, unless it's called something different. Nope, he teleported me. Alright, so we got Mania here. I'm going to throw a few burst fires into him just so you can kind of, again, check the damage out. It's not horrible, like it's better. Oop, I fell down the hole. It's better than some weapons we've tested, but it's still pretty poor. He's running away from me, and then he's teleporting me. And now I'm stuck. I might have to do that unstuck here. Hopefully not get I have been unstuck. I have not been unstuck. Go an operator and try to dash around. Oh my goodness. Let me out of this hell. Just kill me. Let me try unstuck again. I used unstuck too recently. Just kill me, please. Oh, You ragdolled me. I think I'm free. I'm still alive technically, but I'm about to die. I can't believe I did not die there. I got my weapon still.
We will all share in this bounty. Hold out as long as you can.
All right, so we're at 10 minutes here. We're at 626 kills. Now, if you remember the kills we got yesterday, that's actually more than the kills we got yesterday with the primary mode. But I mean, I still like the primary mode better just because it's so versatile. You know, like I would not be doing this dance with this acolyte. He would have been dead in about 3 seconds. So again, you have the option just to go, switch to primary here. I mean, obviously I could just left click, and eventually, when I'm not, staggered here, I don't really need to say I'm gonna head out anyway after I kill this guy, but. You have the option to just left click and do a lot more damage to wherever this guy is. That's not you. That's not you. Oh, there he is. Oh, and I'm staggered again. And there he goes running away. You have the option just to do that, and then he's dead. Instead of trying to use your burst fire on him. So burst is going to be amazing for trash clearing, not really that amazing for much else. Okay, let us go to extraction. Can't believe I didn't die. They had me at like 200 health.
Tenno, extraction is ready.
They fought well. Good deaths all.
Alright, we're going to do a Lua Conjunction, which is going to be a little bit stronger enemies. They're going to be mixed, not just all Grenier. And they're going to start at 180 to 200 instead of like 130-ish. And I do want to check just to make sure there's not a fulmination for this. I don't believe there is.
Well put together, operator. Now get out there.
I checked before, and I believe I typed in fulmination, and nothing came out. But let me type in like AOE, nothing. Radius, nothing. Okay, yeah, there's no fulmination for this weapon, so that's fine. That's what I thought. All right, my buttons are not working. There we go. Okay, I'm back. Gonna be going with Circulus here.
These foes deserve your respect.
I'm gonna cast my 4 to double my armor, and that'll be the last time I use an ability.
With your victory.
He stole my weapon already. Haven't even started yet, and I got my weapon stolen by these guys. I hate these guys.
Attempting to purge you from this place. Stand by for life support.
Now you're gonna have to get some merciless stacks up before it starts doing significant damage. So we'll start out a little bit weak. Once you got merciless stacks up, you're good to go. And again, do better than I'm doing. Like, try to let it fully charge up to 27 before you start blazing away. There's no way to increase your charge up time. Reload speed will slightly decrease the charge delay, but not that much. And going to 0, your charge delay is actually shortened anyway to half a second, so reload speed doesn't do too much. I mean, on this weapon though, there's not really any better arcane, so you do get like a little bit of reload speed with Merciless. But the actual like charge time, there's nothing that affects that, unfortunately. So I'm actually doing pretty good just getting these like little yellow life supports. I will eventually have to make my way over to the big life supports though. So the burst mode, the artillery mode on this weapon is a little bit less versatile than the primary fire build we did yesterday. It's still fun though. It's very fun. It probably combos with certain Warframes better than the regular shotgun mode. So keep that in mind if you're using a certain Warframe, like the burst mode, even though it is less versatile. Like personally, I like the shotgun mode. It might combo with certain Warframes way better. You know, I'm thinking things like Nidus, Zephyr's Tornadoes, anything where like people are getting like sucked in one place. We have a leech Eximus here. I'm gonna get 2 good stacks of fire on him. You can see fire's nice, but it's not like amazing. This dude has like almost 50 fire stacks. Very slow. It's just easier to switch to primary and just blast him a couple times in the face. We haven't actually needed to like super worry about our life support. It's very nice. That's something nice with trash killing weapons. So we got the Acolyte coming. Now what I'm going to do with this Acolyte is I'm going to go straight into primary. I'm not even going to use my burst on him. To just show you how like quicker and cleaner it can be. Of course, if he gives me a clean fight. Some of these guys are dirty little guys. They like to zip behind you and stagger you over and over. Oh, he's going to be the Zephyr guy. I have to switch to melee here, and I'll explain why after. This Acolyte uses Zephyr's Turbulence. And I have to be careful. I don't want to face tank this guy. He's going to do a lot of damage. So Mania is the Zephyr Acolyte. He uses Zephyr's Turbulence. And
They know you're here. Prepare for
bullets can't affect him while he has Turbulence up. If your AoE weapon has a large enough AoE radius, AoE weapons could affect him. I'm going to have to switch to Thoraxis here in a second. So in fact, I might actually use my burst on this guy. His face tanking him is not doing too well. Alright, we have to switch to Thoraxis. They're going to be the most dangerous thing right now. We hit 1 life support and then immediately go to Thoraxis.
I fear we are seeing the consequences of that risk now. Destroy these void-stained enemies.
So I'm using primary fire here. I'm not even going to mess around with the alt fire.
If you have a necromech, you may use it.
Oh my goodness, I'm getting staggered everywhere. In my operator, out of my operator. Alright, it's 1 down. Where is the other one? Where's he dead? Nope, he's still up somewhere. There he is. Oof, staggered again as soon as I go to shoot the Thorax, of course. There we go. Alright, both Thoraxes down. Let me hit a couple life supports here. That was a dirty, dirty fight in that hallway. Both times I switched to Operator, I got immediately staggered. Probably by Mania here. So let's see if I can get primaries on him. I can. He doesn't have his Turbulence up. So yeah, Mania is the... all the Acolytes, they kind of have like a theme with like one of the Warframes. I don't know too much. I mean, I probably should. I just don't really pay attention too much to the lore, like why they do. But he uses Zephyr's Turbulence, and it's like a buff that puts a shield around him that deflects projectiles. So if you have a hit scan weapon, you just literally won't be able to hit him. But if you have an AoE weapon, if the AoE is big enough, you can hit the ground next to him and it'll still do damage to him. And so, like, that's why I bring a melee weapon into these tests, because of that specific Acolyte sometimes. When he has that buff on, it lasts a while. I mean, I could wait for it to fall off, but then it will just recast it on himself once in a while. So I just bring a melee weapon for him. But as you saw in that hallway, that was not working too well for me. Almost died a few times. Alright, so let yourself charge up to 20 seconds. Stop shooting it early. When I use big AoE weapons, like pretty much all AoE weapons, I like to do this thing where I kind of like bullet jump up in the air, and I kind of get like a view of the ground and like where the best place to shoot my shots are. Might be annoying to watch. I hope it's not, but like that's how I find it best to use like large AoE weapons like the Brahma or even this weapon. So we're at 8 minutes 30 seconds. In a minute and a half, we'll have another set of Thoraxes and probably another Acolyte as well. Hit one life support, and then I'm going to head over to the next set here. I'm actually just going to head over to the set here because we're going to have to fight Thoraxes pretty soon. Sorry. Probably just going to hit all three of them, to be honest. And we're going to be using our primary fire to deal with these guys, with the Thoraxes at least.
The Grenier and Corpus
Here they are. Going to go into primary fire because it's going to do a lot better. Now, the primary fire on this build is going to be a lot weaker than the primary fire that we built yesterday, because this build is specifically meant for the AoE.
Life support is at risk. Destroy them.
Come on, give me my bullets back. Charge up quicker. Alright, so 10 minutes in, we killed both Acolytes. We're at 546 kills. It's well above average. So this is a good weapon. Very good weapon. I still personally prefer the primary fire mode, and specifically the primary fire build that I built yesterday over the alternate fire build. It's just a little bit more versatile. The alternate fire build, you know, you always have the option of just left clicking, right? But you're not really built out to left click. It's a lot weaker than building for the left click that we did yesterday. Am I going the right way? I'm not. I'm running my mouth and I'm not even looking at the extraction symbol. But the alternate fire mode may combo better with certain warframes. So, like, depending on your warframe, you might actually get more out of the alternate fire mode.
As you conquer the foe, so you conquer yourself.
And that's why I wanted to showcase both of them. Even though I think one is stronger than the other, I wanted to showcase both. Because they're both viable. They both are Steel Path viable modes. And not just Steel Path viable, but above average. You know, I always say, like, when I do the tests, like, average weapons hit like 350 to 400 after 10 minutes, and both of those times, I think the Kuba Survival was like 600 and something, and the Lua was like 500 and something. So well above average. Okay, we'll go over the build one more time here. So this is the Bubonico. It's a primary arm cannon, and we are specifically building for the alternate fire on this specific build. Now, let me show a plank config here. Now, innate things about the weapon is that it comes with straight up viral on radial attacks. So AoE attacks are viral. That's the unique trait up here. So it fires bursts of 3 viral explosives. And then it's also a, quote unquote battery weapon. It's an infested battery weapon. So whatever the infested use for batteries. So those are the unique things about it. And then the actual, I should have went to this first. Back. Then the actual build, we're going to be going for Galvanized Hell for multi-shot. Vigilante Armaments for more multi-shot. Prime Point Blank for a large flat damage increase. Vicious Spread for a small flat damage increase. And this is the weakest mod on the entire build. So this is 100% your Riven slot. The plus 60 spread doesn't actually affect this weapon because the other kind of unique thing about this is the viral explosives, like the viral cannon you shoot out, has close to pinpoint accuracy. And so the plus 60 spread does almost nothing to it. So just view this as basically just a plus 90 damage. So still quite weak though. Prime Charge Shell and Toxic Barrage to make corrosive. If you want your... you're not going to increase your heat weighting, but you'll decrease your corrosive rating if you use
Do you remember the old war,
Shell Shock.
operator?
Now, I don't
Misplaced
really
the memory.
recommend that. If you don't have Prime Charge Shell, use Shell Shock. Don't use the 90. The 90 is a little bit too in between. It doesn't really give you enough flat damage, and it doesn't give you any status. So it's kind of between these two. You either have the Prime Charge Shell or you have Shell Shock. But I would recommend using Prime Charge Shell just because if you saw in the video, like heat procs are nice. They're good. They do good damage. But they don't do as much damage as the actual damage you get from the weapon. And so by getting Prime Charge Shell, even though you're kind of skewing your heat weighting a little bit less or more by having a higher corrosive value, you're getting more damage out of it. So I would recommend Prime Charge Shell. And then we're going to go with 2 heat mods here, just to try to get our heat weighting up a little bit higher. So we're going to go with Blaze, because that gives us 60 heat and a little bit more flat damage. And Scattering Inferno for 60 heat and 60 status chance. Then we're going to be going for Galvanized Acceleration for projectile speed. Now, I couldn't do this because I have misformas because I was building for the primary fire yesterday. But if you were going to build this specifically for the alt fire, of course your Galvanized Acceleration would be fully ranked up. I just have a rank 4 because I couldn't fit it in with capacity. Primary Merciless for a large 360% damage increase, and plus 30% reload speed, which is only going to affect the charge delay slightly. So, but you don't really get anything out of Primary Deadhead, so you might as well just use Primary Merciless. And that's pretty much it for the build there. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. If you liked it, give it a like. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.